We have a really crucial pair of game twos tonight, but we're going to start our show with breaking news. Sandy Brondello out as head coach of the New York Liberty. In a statement released by the team, it says in part, quote, Sandy finishes her tenure in New York as the winningest coach in franchise history, and she took us to never-seen-before heights as the first head coach to lead the Liberty to a championship. They ended by saying, we wish Sandy the very best.
A championship-winning coach, celebrated as a hero one minute, is unceremoniously fired the next. The New York Liberty just axed Sandy Brondello, the architect of their first-ever title, and the official story makes zero sense. But whispers in the league are pointing to a shocking reason that has nothing to do with wins or losses. It seems Brondello committed the one unforgivable sin in today's WNBA. She praised Caitlyn Clark too loudly.
Sandy Brondello is out on the market. We got a shark out on the market. This is wild news. Sandy Brondello has been fired by the New York Liberty in shocking fashion. This is on ESPN. Breaking: New York Liberty head coach Sandy Brondello's contract will not be renewed for the 2026 season. The team announced the organization will begin the search for its next coach immediately. So we got Noel Quinn gone. Sandy Brondello gone. I think the Indiana Fever need to take a look at this. I think, look, it's not too late to fix the mistake.
To understand how jaw-dropping this is, you have to know who Sandy Brondello was to New York. Before she arrived, the Liberty were a collection of high-priced superstars: Brianna Stewart, Jonquel Jones, Sabrina Ionescu, who couldn't win together. They were a flashy roster with no direction. Brondello was the one who forged them into a championship machine, delivering a title the city had been waiting decades for, and becoming the winningest coach in franchise history. That kind of success should have made her untouchable. Instead, she was shown the door with a cold, generic statement that felt more like an insult than a farewell.
In the WNBA history, all time, to win a title with multiple franchises, and her 40 playoff wins. They are the second most all time behind Cheryl Reed.
But the seeds of this disaster were planted long before Caitlyn Clark entered the picture. The moment the Liberty assembled their super team, they created an internal pressure cooker. The expectation wasn't just to win, it was to dominate. Anything less than a championship was seen as an abject failure. This environment fostered a delicate balance of egos, where every player's status and media narrative was carefully managed. Ownership invested millions into building a brand around their stars, and they expected every single person in the organization, especially the head coach, to protect that brand above all else.
Yeah, you never want to see a player get injured, and a player like Caitlyn coming back has had a few injuries this year. She's a great player. Would have been good for our draft this year, but hopefully we'll get to see her after post-All-Star, get to play them again. As for the All-Star, I'm excited to get to know her a little bit. I think that's the part of the All-Star. It's going to coach players that we haven't coached before and get them to know them a little bit and enjoy the whole celebration.
Into this fragile ecosystem walked Caitlyn Clark, a rookie phenomenon whose popularity dwarfed the entire league combined. Suddenly, an unspoken rule emerged. Acknowledging Clark's massive impact was seen as a threat. In a league simmering with jealousy over the attention she receives, openly complimenting her became a dangerous game. Some players roll their eyes at her media coverage, and some coaches pretend she doesn't exist. But Brondello didn't play along. She spoke the truth about Clark's undeniable effect on the game, and in doing so, she may have signed her own termination papers.
New York Liberty just fired their head coach. People are confused as to why, because they won the championship last year, they made the playoffs this year. In sports, there's always a scapegoat when things aren't going the way that they wanted it to go. Clearly, in New York, the standard has been raised. As Coach Tibbs learned with the New York Knicks, making the playoffs does not guarantee that you are safe anymore. They have raised the standard. They're sending a message to the fans, to the team, saying, we don't want to just go to the playoffs. We need to go to the finals and we need to win. So if it's not the players on the court that are changing, it's got to be the coaching staff. So unfortunately, that did mean Coach Sandy
This all comes down to politics and branding. The Liberty's entire identity revolves around their super team. They want the narrative centered on Stewart, Jones, and Ionescu as the faces of the league. When their own championship-winning coach publicly anoints Caitlyn Clark as the one truly changing the game, it's perceived as a deep betrayal. Brondello basically admitted that the center of the basketball universe had shifted from New York to Indiana, and that was a truth the Liberty front office and its carefully curated stars simply couldn't handle. Officially, the Liberty organization tried to sell this as a move based on performance. They pointed to the team's stumble in the postseason as justification for needing a change. But that story falls apart the second you look at their own statement. You don't praise a coach as the winningest in franchise history in the same breath you fire them for not winning enough. It's a classic PR move designed to soften a blow when the real reason is something they desperately want to hide. And insiders quickly confirmed what everyone was thinking. The real issue wasn't the losses, but her comments about Caitlyn Clark. Let's dissect the lie they used to cover their tracks. A mutual parting of ways. That phrase is one of the most dishonest in corporate language. Mutual implies both sides agree. But Sandy Brondello, a coach at the absolute peak of her profession, didn't just wake up after winning a title and decide to walk away from a championship contender. This was the franchise pulling the trigger, plain and simple. Using the word mutual is a tactic to prevent the fired party from speaking out, creating a false narrative of harmony while masking a brutal, one-sided decision. And what was the decision really about? Let's be clear about the specific comments that sealed her fate. Brondello called Clark a generational player who elevated everyone around her. That's not just a compliment, it's an anointing. It declares Clark as the new standard by which all other players, including New York's own stars, are measured. You can imagine how that went over in a locker room and front office that believe they are the standard. The message from the top was clear. You can win a title, but you absolutely cannot praise the wrong person. This single incident has laid bare a shocking and destructive hypocrisy within the entire WNBA. The league publicly claims it wants to grow, to attract new fans, and to become a mainstream sport. Well, Caitlyn Clark is that growth. The record-breaking ratings, the sold-out arenas on the road, and the non-stop media frenzy all prove it. Brondello simply stated a fact, but instead of being applauded for her honesty, she was punished for it. This move reveals a deep-seated insecurity that would rather protect fragile egos than embrace a golden opportunity for the whole league. What makes this decision so utterly absurd is Brondello's resume. This isn't some rookie coach they took a chance on. She is one of only 2 coaches in the history of the WNBA to win championships with 2 different teams, having also led the Phoenix Mercury to a title in 2014. Her 40 career playoff wins are the second most of all time. You do not just get rid of a living legend like that over one playoff loss. You only do it when they've crossed a political line that ownership finds unforgivable. The reaction from around the league tells the whole story. Becky Hammon, the respected coach of the rival Las Vegas Aces, didn't hold back, publicly calling it a huge mistake and saying Brondello was a quality person and a quality coach. Even more telling, Liberty star Breanna Stewart publicly backed Brondello just days before she was fired, saying the team was behind her. When your chief rival and your own MVP are defending the coach, but ownership fires her anyway, you know this decision was never about basketball. The media immediately saw through the flimsy excuse. Outlets like ESPN, Fox Sports, and countless sports journalists didn't just report on the firing. They reported on the reason for the firing. The Caitlyn Clark angle became the headline everywhere, turning a local team decision into a national controversy. The story wasn't Liberty fire coach, it was Liberty fire coach for praising Clark. This narrative painted the franchise and the league as petty and insecure on a massive scale, completely undermining their efforts to be taken seriously. As you'd expect, fans saw right through the charade. Social medias erupted the moment the news broke, with thousands of people instantly connecting the dots. The Liberty's attempt to control the narrative backfired spectacularly. Instead of looking decisive, they looked foolish, confirming every negative stereotype about the league's internal politics. Liberty fans were furious, Clark's fans were bewildered, and neutral observers were simply embarrassed for the league. And what about Caitlyn Clark herself? She didn't ask for any of this. She's a second-year player focused on basketball, breaking records and trying to win games. Yet her name is being dragged into controversies she has no part in creating. She's become a lightning rod, and her success is being weaponized in petty political battles. The real shame is that instead of celebrating a player who has lifted the entire league, her name is being used as a justification to tear down one of its best coaches. So, where does this leave everyone? Brondello will be fine. A coach with her track record won't be unemployed for long. Don't be surprised if she ends up in Seattle or with an expansion team and comes back to haunt the Liberty in the playoffs. But New York has just created a toxic storm. Their next coach is walking into a pressure cooker where winning isn't enough. You also have to navigate a minefield of egos and unspoken rules, a situation destined for failure. The long-term damage here could be catastrophic. For years, the WNBA has fought for mainstream respect, for bigger TV deals, for major sponsorships. This incident makes the entire league look amateurish. It tells potential investors and new fans that the league is governed by jealousy, not professionalism. Why would a top-tier coach from the NBA or college ranks ever want a job in a league where winning a championship doesn't guarantee your security if you say one wrong thing? In the end, this firing wasn't just about one coach losing her job. It was a message sent to the entire league. Keep the spotlight on the approved stars, or you will be next. It reveals a shocking fragility at the core of the WNBA, where one honest compliment about Caitlyn Clark can get a championship coach fired. That's not a sign of a league that's growing, it's a sign of a league that's terrified of its own shadow. The fans know the truth, and no amount of PR spin can hide it. Drop your thoughts below, smash that like button, and subscribe for more breakdowns that expose what's really happening behind the scenes.